Could you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Voyles.
And how are you employed?
I am employed as the controller and operations supervisor of People's Savings Bank.
And that's a bank where like individuals like me can have checking and savings accounts.
Yes.
And if I have a checking and savings account, can I have a debit or credit card?
Yes.
And as a result, if somebody like me would use that, what would your bank produce in terms of a statement?
You would see those charges on your bank statement if you swiped your debit card.
And are you able to look at those statements and look at specific transactions and determine, depending on the information, where that transaction occurred and at what time and date?
Yes.
I want to show you what's been marked as Stakes Exhibit 83 and ask if you recognize what these are.
These are bank statements.
And those are bank statements pertaining to whose account?
If I can find a name. Benjamin and Lynlee Renick.
And is there a business record affidavit on top of those?
Yes, there is.
That basically means those are records that you guys keep in the ordinary course of business.
Correct.
And would these be such statements that I just described where you might be able to tell us about certain transactions?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd offer an exhibit, in evidence, States Exhibit 83.
Any objection? No. 83 be admitted.
Now, before we get to, there is still a yellow sticky on one of those pages, correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay, before we get to that day, I want to show you, we mentioned debit cards. I want to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 81 and 82. And see if you recognize what those are. And if you need to set any of that stuff down.
Okay. These are debit card applications that were signed by Benjamin and Lynlee Renick.
And do they indicate, do they both have the same debit card?
No, they have different card numbers.
And so we can determine whether Ben or Lynlee, not necessarily who might have had the card using it, but which card was being used on a certain date to make a purchase.
Correct.
And how would you go about doing that?
On the statement, the last four of the card number used for the purchase is in the description.
Okay. And on 81 and 82, the same identifying numbers will be found. Is that
correct?
Your Honor, I would offer States Exhibit 81 and 82.
Any objection? No, Your Honor. 81, 82 be admitted.
Now, I mentioned the yellow sticky note. That's on States Exhibit 83, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to ask, do you see that screen in front of you?
Yes.
And I don't know if it's easier for you to look at the screen or
wait a minute. What are we doing here?
It's already up, Judge, actually. States Exhibit 83.
She's got it. Okay, it's in evidence.
Yes.
Showing them. Okay.
And it's already up. I'm sorry.
Well, is that on? Okay. We're good. Go ahead.
I got ahead of you. Sorry. I don't know which is easier for you to look at, but on States Exhibit 83, that page with the yellow sticky note, I've highlighted a transaction that the date says June 9th of 2017.
Correct.
Okay. Does that date indicate that I just said June 9th of 2017? Does that indicate that was the date that this transaction we're going to talk about actually occurred?
No, that was the date that the transaction posted to the account.
And what does that mean versus date the transaction occurred versus posted to the account? Typically,
there's a day or two leeway between the time that the transaction will hit the account and comes out in a pending status to when it posts.
So when I buy my gas is when it occurs.
Correct.
It could take maybe another day for the bank, if you will, to get notice of it.
Correct.
And it go into the record.
Correct.
So if we look then next to that, there is an 829 per Petromark 49 Columbia, Missouri. Do you see that?
Yes.
First of all, that 1829, what does that indicate?
It's the last four digits of the card number that was used to make the purchase.
And so going back to 81 and 82, which were Lynlee and Ben's, one of them has that specific PIN number.
Correct.
And whose card, Ben or Lynlee, has that PIN number?
Lynlee.
And that would be found in states. This is 82 I have up there right now.
Correct.
81 is Lynlee's, correct?
Correct.
And so if we would look at the last, up in the card number, the last 4 that are highlighted are the same on State's Exhibit 81 as on that statement of State's Exhibit 83.
Correct.
Okay. Going back to 83 then, so we know Lynlee's card was used to make this transaction.
Correct.
The per Petromart 49 Columbia, Missouri, are you familiar with what that would refer to?
The PUR means it was a debit card purchase, so the PIN number was used. The Petromart 49 Columbia, Missouri is the location that it was used at.
And you're familiar with some of these people own maybe 20, 30 gas stations.
Correct.
So that 49, do you suspect what that 49 might refer to?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Well, is she speculating?
Well, Judge, let me lay a foundation.
Okay. So you're withdrawing the question? And
Yes.
You're going to start. Okay. Question's been withdrawn. Go ahead, counsel.
Are you familiar with businesses keeping track of their locations by numerical systems?
Yes.
And whether you don't necessarily know if that's the case here, but that's what you would suspect that 49 to refer to.
Correct.
So we would need to contact Petromart and ask them what number station is 49, if that's how you keep track of it, and where's that located if we wanted to know which Petromart this purchase took place at.
Correct. Or you could probably Google it. That's typically what we do when customers are asking questions.
I think that's how we started this. We Googled it, okay? But then we got more definitive, and we'll hear about that in a moment. After that, it is in parentheses 6/8 of 17. Now that's the day before this posted.
Correct. That is the date that the transaction was actually occurred.
So that's when the purchase of the gas actually took place.
Yes.
And next to that is numbers 20, 03, 49.
Yes.
What does that number sequence there mean?
That is the time in military time that the purchase was made.
Okay, and so in military time, what would that be? 8:03 p.m.?
It would be, however, it is Greenwich Mean Time, not Central Standard Time.
So a quick translation is just taking it to military time, which is 8 p.m. 8:03 to be exact.
Yes.
And the second. But that's not the actual time of the purchase, is it?
No.
Okay, and why is that? Why is this time 8:03? Is the purchase time actually different?
Our core processor uses Greenwich Mean Time so that you can convert it to whatever time for whatever time zone you're in. So they just use one standard time zone for all of their debit cards.
And is that Greenwich Mean Time? Is that like the date line on the globe? And are you familiar with how much time we would have to add or subtract from this time to get the exact time that this purchase was made?
It would be 6 hours you would subtract.
Are you sure it was 6 or was it 5 from previous time discussions with us?
I apologize, you're right, it's 5.
Okay. Well, I'm not the one testifying, and I have some other notes here if you need to look, but I want to be certain. Do you recall now, thinking about it a little bit more clearly, how much time we would actually subtract from that?
Yes, it's 5 hours.
We would subtract 5 hours to 8:03.
Yes.
So this purchase would have actually been made on June 8th, 2017 at 3:03 in the afternoon.
Correct.
And apparently whatever was purchased there, whether it was gas or hot dogs and sodas, it was $20.42.
Correct.
Your Honor, I don't have any other questions.
Cross.
No questions, Your Honor.
Can this witness be finally excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Step
you.
down and you're finally excused. Call your next witness.